When I was about 16, which would have been about 1986, I used to party quite a bit. I was on the school football team, and a lot of my friends used to like to drink and party, and it was just one of those things I ended up doing. I grew up in the lower mainland of British Columbia, Canada. This is important due to the logistics of my story. In my hometown, there was a guy everyone bought alcohol off of. The cops would arrest him every now and then, but with all the money he made selling from booze to the local teenagers, he was able to pay off the fines he would get from the cops. Anyway, when he wasn't able to sell booze, we would go up to Port Coquitlam, which is just north of where I grew up. It's about 27 kilometers from Vancouver and about 17 miles if for my American friends. This guy's farm was kind of out of the way most of the time. I didn't really pick up any vibes from him when we would get there either. It was a pretty normal transaction, in my opinion. You would drive up to the old dirt road, and then once you got to his property, you would honk the horn 3 times. Then he would come out with the booze, and you would hand him the money. Like I said, it was a pretty simple transaction. There wasn't a, hey, how was your day? However, years later, I'd find out that this man was none other than Canada's most prolific serial killer, Robert Pickton. It disgusts me to know that I was that close to a real-life monster, and probably one of the most hated men in Canadian history. Robert killed prostitutes between 1983 and 2002. He would murder them and then chop them up and feed the remains of his victims to his pigs, or just bury their bodies on his property. There was also allegations by Pickton that he took human flesh and mixed that in with pork that he had sold to the public. I was watching Ghost Adventures one night. I know what you might be thinking already. I most likely made this up in my head, and, honestly, I wish I did. And to this day, I hope it was a hallucination. I was 13 at the time. My parents were out for the night, and my dad left me $20 for a pizza. And with the permission of my dad, I was able to make a bowl of popcorn. As I finished my popcorn during a commercial break in Ghost Adventures, I went to use the sink to wash my bowl. I entered my kitchen from the left-hand side of the living room. I stopped dead in my tracks. I looked towards the frying pans hanging on the right-hand side of the wall. They were hanging on hooks. I don't know why or what made me stop, but just something didn't feel right in that general vicinity of the room. I was standing there for about 30 seconds, and the feelings of uneasiness continued to build. My heart rate started to go up. I was confident something was in front of me, and then a frying pan comes out perpendicular to the ground and slams against the wall. I stood there frozen in fear in the kitchen as goosebumps all over my arm. I slowly walked out of the kitchen and I sat in my dad's recliner in the living room with a view into the kitchen. I turned off my TV to see if anything else would happen, but nothing ever did. I'm convinced I saw the frying pan move by itself. Even today, writing this story still kind of feels tears in my eyes. I don't want to say it was a ghost, but I have no explanation for it. I grew up in Kamloops, British Columbia, helping run my family's apple orchard. It was not until I was about 19-20 years old when I decided to go for training to become an RCMP officer. It was a very empowering time of my life, and it was also kind of a time where it wasn't really a well-accepted idea of there being female police officers, let alone working for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. For those of you that don't understand, that's what the RCMP means. When I was a rookie, and once I finished my training, I was stationed in the lower mainland of BC in 1979. It was a great moment in my life. I was very proud to be serving my country and community. However, these thoughts of glamour would be completely shattered a year later. It changed the way I look at protecting my own kids, and it also even still affects me to this day on how I lock my doors and check my windows twice. And honestly, what I read in a textbook couldn't even prepare me for what happened. It was a safe time. You could leave your doors unlocked. Hell, Even people left their keys in their cars right in plain view sight. I would assume most people who grew up during this time could tell you the paranoia that surrounded this event. In November 1980, there was a call to another RCMP detachment from a distraught family. Their daughter went missing. At the time, we didn't think much of it. We kind of just chopped it up to maybe a runaway and would most likely come back. However, this was far from the truth, and someone found her body a month later on Christmas Day. She was only 12 years old. About a year later in 1981, another body was found. It was another girl. She was 13. She vanished 5 months prior, and this means that almost a year exactly after the first murder, she disappeared roughly around the same time in November of 1981. Less than a week later, a 16-year-old boy went missing. He was found 2 weeks after he vanished. In May, a 16-year-old girl was abducted and murdered. In June, a 13-year-old girl was found. In July, I'll never forget July 1981. It was horrible. 6 kids went missing, and this is when parents started to get paranoid and worried for their own kids. After these 6 people went missing and were found shortly after, the youngest being 9 and the oldest being 18, the 18-year-old was a German tourist on vacation. She was hitchhiking throughout the province. However, one of the victims was a 15-year-old boy, and after this happened, it became kind of a campfire story of what happened to him. And I can tell you right now that the campfire story that you've probably heard as a kid is probably not too far from reality. The boy was abducted, tortured, and raped, then bludgeoned to death. The torture was horrible. It's safe to assume the boy was conscious and well aware of what was happening. The killer took a 3-inch nail and drove it into the 15-year-old's skull. That detail alone makes me shudder. The more sick and twisted part about this is that he just picked mainly just little kids, and he didn't care about their gender either. How he would pick them up is usually with the promise of either alcohol or maybe just water. He would get them into their car, and in the water and alcohol, he would be either laced with some type of chemical that would make you pass out. Long enough for you to pass out so that you can get to a secluded location. Most of the time he went to Weaver Lake, which is just north of the lower mainland of BC. You'd usually get through Weaver Lake. You had to go through Agassiz. Some of you might be wondering, who am I talking about? And honestly, I hate saying the killer's name, but his name was Clifford Olson. He's everything a parent fears, and rightfully so. He died of cancer in prison, and honestly, cancer was too nice for the death he deserved. Hey everybody, hopefully you enjoyed that 100 subscriber special. Yes, most of these stories have been experienced by personal family members or just some friends I had. One of these stories was actually from a teacher that I had in junior high, and I'm not going to say who told what story just out of respect for their privacy. This is, Canada isn't the picture perfect place you think it is. It's a nice and safe place, but yeah, we got our crazy people, we got our loonies. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys really, really enjoyed today's video. This one was actually a really cool and kind of really deep dive into some of the things that I know of personally and have people who were affected by these events. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen,
stay mellow.